Welcome to the Leaders of Learning podcast. In this episode, we will speak with Linda Hegarty. Linda is an educator with lots of really interesting experience. She taught English to executives in Spain. She set up a music school in Cork. And when she worked for the World Health Organization in Tanzania, she led the development of an online learning platform to support continuous professional development of staff working at the hundreds of charitable health and educational organizations right across Africa. At the moment, she's developing a social video creation tool, which is for employees to be able to create short format social learning videos to share tips, tricks, and tactics to do things more efficiently at work in a way that is relevant, relatable, and real time for the benefit of current and future colleagues. What's really interesting about this chat is that we hear from a really humble lady who has always been motivated to solve problems, educational and otherwise. And she doesn't always have the knowledge that she needs to solve these problems at the outset, but her sheer enthusiasm and delight in tackling these challenges and creating what she calls something magical supports her to get the knowledge and to learn the skills that she needs along the way. Linda is the kind of person who makes the world around her a better place. If you're looking to bridge the gap between your own professional practice and entrepreneurship, I think you're really going to enjoy this episode. What's interesting is that Linda has always been entrepreneurial in her practice, but as you will hear, she's always seemed to resist the label of being an entrepreneur. Have a listen.
Well, I just looked at some of the questions, and to be honest, I didn't spend a lot of time thinking about answers because I didn't want to come across as scripted. I guess I am an entrepreneur, but I I don't really feel like that's not how I get up every morning. So I
Okay.
feel a little bit of a kind of maybe the wrong person to be talking about, what the ideal scenario or the ideal journey for entrepreneurs should be. Because I don't think like that. I just think, okay, I'm doing something really cool, working really hard to make something happen. And that's kind of my life. Like I'm not thinking, oh, I want to change the world. I want to do this, that, the other. I'm just working to execute an idea and to really experience the impact that that idea has.
That's lovely. And what is it about that idea that energizes you?
I guess I could talk a little bit in general in that, I've always been like this. I've always gravitated towards finding problems or finding solutions to problems. And, I am kind of an ideas person, and over my life, I've come up with, lots of ideas. Some of them I've pursued, others I haven't. And, it is just that kind of seeing the impact that kind of makes all the kind of the crappy tasks sustainable. So it is that vision of seeing something amazing happen. So I could give you some, examples of previous ideas. So, for example, way back years and years ago, I moved back from Spain to West Cork. And like one of the big things that I wanted to do at the time was I wanted to learn the flute. So before looking for a job, doing anything, I started looking around for flute lessons and I couldn't find any. And then people were saying, oh, you have to go to Bantry or you have to go to Clonakilty. There's nothing around here. So I thought, maybe I could start a school and then I would learn to play the flute. So I started, with my surveys going around to the schools in the area and, talking to people and finding that there was actually a need for this. So then I contacted teachers and, they also were saying that they didn't really have a place to teach, that they were kind of spending their days traveling all around the county, teaching random people. So there was a lot of work kind of fitting out really kind of poor music rooms, painting, all sorts of stuff, promoting it. And then like I remember the day we had the first enrollment was just like magic. It was just amazing. And one of the, like some of my, one of the great memories of my life is, the concert when we had 120 kids, like a year into the project, who not only did they not know how to play a year before, they'd no possibility to even learn. So bringing them all into the concert hall and having the likes of Seamus Cray, he was our fiddle teacher, and some amazing teachers, and just all the parents in one room, and such an amazing social evening. And that's the idea, that's how I kind of connect the idea with the impact. It's probably always about community in some way, but it's just creating magic moments. So again, another one, I guess, was the project I was involved in with Tanzania. And that was when I was working with the Global Health Workforce Alliance. And I was put in charge of creating an online platform for the 1,000+ organizations that we had on our books who were working in the area of human resource for health. So I was probably the least likely person to be asked to do this because I was a complete dinosaur. But and I didn't even believe in it, to be honest. I just thought, oh, what the hell? We need a platform for it. Can't people just go on LinkedIn if they want to? So, I wasn't convinced, but I kind of got stuck in, and I had a couple of interns who were more digital savvy than me. And as I got into it then, I just suddenly saw the possibilities, because as soon as we launched, and I mean, it wasn't just launching, we had to do a lot of kind of informational webinars and lots of phone calls, about 400 phone calls to tell people about this. But when we started, I saw that the appetite was just so huge. And then when I saw people from kind of remote places in, Sudan or Kenya or wherever, getting engaged and grasping this as their opportunity to be, to have a voice in things like shaping the agenda of a global forum or influencing, the grants from the European Union. Again, it was this magic, it was just incredible how, a very simple idea can have such an incredible impact. And then that led to, seeing the possibility of creating consortia of organizations in countries that, were kind of voiceless in the area of human resource for health, and seeing how, they could maybe work together and use technology to do something that would really have an impact in their communities. So from there came the opportunity to group together some organizations in Tanzania, which included, civil society groups and professional associations, the government, universities, and, bring them together and say, okay, is there any way we can use this platform to solve some of your problems? Like, what's your biggest problem? And like in that case, the problem was that the landscape was so packed, like loads of people were doing amazing things, but they weren't coordinated. And they had a real problem with continuous professional development for health workers who, had their 3-4 years training, and then they were sent to way out on their own for years without any real possibility to get further training that, what they didn't have access, basically. So again, we kind of came up with the idea to do online learning, to use technology to do e-learning for health workers. And so there again, like that was what made me sign up for my master's, because I knew, like, we had this idea. I wasn't so convinced. Like, I was thinking e-learning, oh my God, that's not as good as face-to-face. It's a real poor man's substitute, like fobbing off e-learning on people just because we can't afford to pay for the proper type of learning. So, I'm very reluctant to jump in on these ideas, but I said, okay, I'll do a master's, see what it's all about. And this just completely changed my life again. I just thought, oh my God, the possibilities are limitless. And when I started work in Tanzania, they really only had 2G phones, but it took so long that by the time we were ready to go with this, everybody had their smartphones and, digital, everybody was connected. So again, I remember there was like 12 trips to Tanzania, like so much work went into it, so many bumps on the roads, like lots of disappointments, but lots of energy. And it was the enthusiasm of the people in the ground kept me going. And when I went for the final meeting, when I was doing the training for the Centre for Online Learning people, again, it was just a magic week that, the people, they just couldn't believe how they were able to record videos, how they were able to edit videos, how they were able to present in front of camera. Like I really kind of like pushed them into everything for the week and they just adored it. And now, like that project it has been handed back to the government, and at the last count, there are 175,000 health workers using that platform for continuous professional development. But they're using it in a way that it counts for something. Because in the meantime, we were also working to get CPD compliance mandatory. So it's all connected, and I just love that. I love connecting everything so that, and always, doing the groundwork first, kind of seeing, what really is the problem. Like it can't be just an easy fix. There must be some kind of levels of complication. We need to sit back and think and plan and then just push it forward. Does that
So
answer your question?
that's wonderful. So you used some great words there. You used the words magic a couple of times and you used the words impact. And you also talked about, in both of your examples, identifying a problem.
Mhm.
And so, like, is it fair to say that you're the kind of person who, when you see a problem that needs to be addressed, that you're the kind of person that wants to get stuck in and see if it can be solved?
Yeah, completely. That's my automatic response. Yeah, I do. I guess it's just like I love ideas. I love problems, and I love thinking of solutions and really trying to figure out how, what are the details of the problem and how can, like, I hate quick fixes. Like I just don't like, I'm more about, benefits and features in the language of, kind of tech companies. Like I've no real time for, feature packed products. For me, it's waste time unless it solves a real problem that really has an impact on my life. I don't want just cool stuff.
There's
That's
that
not
word
me.
impact again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds to me like, not to lead you, but your way of thinking is quite entrepreneurial. It's like a very entrepreneurial mindset. Is there something about the word entrepreneur that makes you feel uncomfortable, that you wouldn't think of yourself as being an entrepreneur or entrepreneurial?
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I just don't see myself in a category. Like when I think of an entrepreneur, I probably think of, some really successful, smart guy in a suit being interviewed, by what's your man on Bobby, what's his name
Probably
on
fair.
Bobby Carey, yeah. With, the story, with the kind of maybe a more linear trajectory, the kind of college, PhD, really super powerful job. And then, they go that path. And my journey has really been, a lot messier, and more random. And I think that, if I am kind of in an entrepreneurial kind of role or position at the moment, a lot of it is because I didn't go the route that I would have been expected to go. For example, I did marketing in DCU and I finished in 1992. And like the expectation at the time and my expectation when I started college would have been that I would have gone somehow, some route towards being marketing manager of some international organization. That's sort of like I spent like 4 years in college thinking that was the route I was going on. And then when I got to towards the end of fourth year, I just, like, I don't know, was it a lack of confidence or just life experience or kind of a broader view of things? I just could not see how I would transition into that world. Like I just I couldn't see what value I would bring. I just couldn't imagine myself sitting at a desk or sitting in a meeting with people in suits or, kind of the people who I thought I wanted to be like and be with, but I just couldn't see it. Like, and I didn't know how to take the first step into that world. And like, I don't know, like I say, was it confidence or lack of experience or whatever, but maybe also it was the fact that I didn't come from a professional background. Like my mom was a nurse. My dad was a kind of a serial, not, I'll call him entrepreneur, like a very small business. He was kind of a ducker diver, kind of always something kind of guy. But, I had nobody in my background, normalizing the transition from college into that professional setting. And I didn't know how to do it. And maybe, maybe there were supports in DCU. I don't know. I just wasn't aware of them. And I could see other people in my year, going to the interviews, the milk round interviews in fourth year and, kind of talking about going into different, Kerry group or I don't know, I can't even remember the jobs that they were going towards. But I just I just saw that I was different. Not in a, oh my God, I'm such an entrepreneur. No, I thought I just I can't do that. I don't know how to.
Did
So
you want to?
I don't know if I want to. I mean, when I was in college, that's what I assumed I would be doing. But I don't know, I just couldn't see the pathway. So I knew I loved, like at that time, the decision I took was to kind of basically kind of hang out. Really, I loved Spanish. I always loved languages. So I'd been to Spain for a few summers, just working in bars and stuff. So I thought I'm going to go to Spain for a year and see how just get my language fluent and, see what happens. Maybe I'll be ready when I come back to, to get back on the path towards this marketing manager of a big organization. So I went to Spain and I spent a year. I started teaching English, just kind of house to house, putting an ad in a newspaper and getting students like that. So giving grinds basically.
So you didn't go looking for a job. You went and created the job for yourself.
Yeah. So then a few months in, like I was enjoying it, and I enjoyed the freedom, like the autonomy, and I could kind of set up my own schedule, and I mean I ended up working a lot. So I mean it's not that I was just kind of enjoying loads of free time. I was kind of working a lot. And then after about 6 months, I kind of again got an idea because I was teaching some business people. And I thought, oh, would it be great if I created courses specifically for working people, for people in businesses. So rather than doing the, you know, Mary and John went to the shop to buy candy kind of texts, to do more business English. So I didn't really do any research to know if there was a need, but I suppose anecdotally I knew that there was. Like, in Spain at the time, people would be sent to Ireland or England during their summer holidays when they were teenagers. But there wasn't really a lot going on once they, got into the workplace. So that was, of course, pre-internet. So I contacted one of my lecturers in DCU and told him this idea I had and said, told him how I loved a lot of the readings in international marketing. in DCU, and I kind of remembered a few of them. And I said, would you be able to send me some material that I would use to build my course? So he was really nice, sent me loads of things. So I created my little course anyway, and using a lot of these materials. And I was a bit of a grammar expert at that point because I just loved, I just really got into grammar. So I had a very nice course, which was kind of, a little bit of grammar, a bit of just, basing lessons on materials that I got from this lecture, which I then had, I used to add then articles from Newsweek or Time or just different newspapers. And then the informal conversation, and just a nice course, really. So I went around to different companies and I got work in Guinness, which was Cruise Campbell, which was owned by Guinness, Alcatel, and a number of other companies, a lot of companies. I got in. And again, I really enjoyed that. And if you ask me why I did it, I guess, yeah, it was the idea. And maybe I was kind of, if I'm honest, I was kind of maybe looking for a bit more status than, teaching kids, going around to kids' houses. Like, when I moved to my teaching in companies, I'd go in my kind of, business attire and my briefcase and, and I enjoyed that. I have to say, I enjoyed being with, kind of, the top brass of these companies and talking about, stuff that was exciting, and like I kind of feel that it wasn't like counseling, but it was almost like that. Like I think, we'd have much more open conversations, or they would tell me a lot of things just because like they had it was just a nice kind of, it was a very enjoyable experience. So then I guess I didn't grow that into business as such. And maybe because I didn't have the skills. Like I could grow it enough for me to be busy, but I didn't really know how to take the next step of creating a team and creating the structure of making that into business. So I kind of had how long have you got, Sean? I'm going on, I think. Am I?
No, you're not. I'm very happy to listen to you, but I'll
Yeah.
also respect your time.
Yeah, no, I'm okay. Because I'm really going down a rabbit hole here. I think things I can remember. But anyway, so I think, maybe being in Guinness, and it was around the time that the Irish pub project was exploding around Europe. So I think I'd just started learning how to cook. Like I was about 22, 23. I'd always been useful, and I got really big into cooking. And even though I, I was living out of Ireland, I didn't go back after that year that I said was my intention. So I was kind of having a lot of conversations about the Irish pubs. And I had been to California for a couple of months in the summer, and it was my first experience of, cafe lattes and cappuccinos and all of these kind of fancy coffees. In Spain, it was all just cafe solo, cafe con leche, very kind of brands of coffee. Can I just pause 1 minute and let the dog out? So I kind of, I came up with an idea of Irish shops. So the idea was that to be kind of, the kind of Italian, inspired by California type coffees, and kind of modern, kind of European food that was pretty typical in Ireland around that time. The quiche and the, whatever. I can't even remember what side the menu set out anyway. And then that we would have a shop with Irish crafts in the business as well. So, I mean, this is pretty standard now in a lot of cafes, but at the time it wasn't really a thing. Like I was thinking,
Is this for
that to be,
cafes in Ireland
no,
or?
in Spain, to sort of kind of riding on the crest of the Irish pub success. So that was the idea that, we'd kind of follow the same kind of expansion strategy as the Irish pubs. So I kind of was working on that for a while, and I had somebody who was interested in investing. I went to an exhibition in the RDS. I came home one Christmas and had identified a lot of really cool arts and crafts that we would have used in the shop. But then, kind of when we were very close to actually deciding to go ahead, the investor decided that he was actually going to go back to take. He had been offered a really big job in a big organization. He said he was going to go. Sorry, so sorry, but I'm going to take this instead. So I then was offered to jump on board with the Irish Club project. So they were opening, there was a hotel in Seville, in the center of Seville, it's still there, the Hotel Inglaterra. And they had a kind of a bit of a very traditional, we'll say, fuddy-duddy hotel bar that had been there forever. And they decided to convert it to an Irish pub. So they had never been to Ireland, didn't know anything about Ireland. So they needed somebody to kind of hold their hands and transition them out of this hotel bar into an Irish pub.
You're the
So
resident Irish expert.
yeah, so I was asked to do that. So that was pretty amazing. It was really, everything coordinating with the guys who brought the truck over with the pre-built pub, and measuring out everything and really looking at the detail of, where the drip trays would be exactly to, so that the beer taps would be in a certain place, positioned at a certain angle to capture people coming in the door, the tint on the mirrors, everything, again, very, very detailed. I trained the chefs. So we were using the hotel chefs. So, I had to kind of come up with the menu, train the chefs, train the staff, organize the promotions, parties, the events, basically, and then, there's manage the stock, all of this kind of stuff. So it was a huge learning experience, really. Like, I mean, at that time as well, like I'd never done anything with computers in college, like beyond I think it was basic, the kind of
Yeah.
it was all programming. So like Windows came in after I left college. So I had done a little course on Word Perfect, which was still the kind of, the codes like F9 and I don't know what to make it bold. But things were moving on. So I learned Excel. So I learned how to manage the stock and create a program for that. And yeah, it was good fun. And then from that, so I did that for about a year, got that up and running, which was brilliant. And then the head of the Irish Pub Project in Cruzcampo, where I had been working as a teacher, decided that he was going to set up a pub in Bilbao. So he asked me to come and do the same thing. So there we transformed a dentist clinic into an Irish pub. So that was really, it was great again. But again, if we go back to the ideas, like a lot of it was, it was a successful business, but a lot of our parties focused on, Irish Basque cultural nights. So, I would never be a person to say, okay, we've got a pub, we'll sell loads of Guinness and that's brilliant. I'm always looking for more. Like, how do we make something really special and really kind of, yeah, the magic? How can we bring the magic to the community so that everybody really kind of has that kind of special moment? And I remember those nights that we would bring in the Basque dancers and I would get all our bar staff, we'd set up Irish dances, like we'd choreograph them like a group of 8 of us. And like some of those nights again, like people would be leaving the pub just kind of really emotional, saying, this was just so amazing. Thank you so much. And I loved it. Like I brought some of the waitresses to Milltown Malbay to the Willie Clancy week to learn to do a set dancing course so that we would have somewhat of a kind of a good show to put on when we would do these parties. And then, yeah, we'd Pierce Brosnan. They were filming a James Bond movie in Bilbao around that time. And Pierce Brosnan came over for a pint because all of his crew were over, they were at some of our parties. They thought they were hilarious. So, yeah, no, it's just fun.
Linda, you mentioned there about the pub in Seville, and you said so setting up the pub in terms of thinking about where the taps were and the angles so that people could see them when they came in. You talked about the mirrors. You talked about setting up the bar in Bilbao and thinking about promotions and what kind of product you wanted, as in, did you want it to be a really nice cultural experience versus, as you said, just sell a load of pints of Guinness. But to do all those things, to do promotions and cooking and logistics and stock management and so on, it sounds like you sort of learned through the process how to do those things. But would I be right in saying that you didn't know how to do those things beforehand?
No, I didn't know how to do any of those things. But, I knew that they were necessary. And in a lot of those situations, we didn't have, there was never a case that, I would be able to hire an accountant or hire a stock taker or do any of these things. Like, that just wasn't really an option. So I just felt they had to be done. So I would just do it. And, it's like and it's not just the kind of the high level kind of stock taking, that kind of, the promotions, the interviews, any of that. Like, I remember on Sundays in pub in Bilbao, I used to go down and clean the cauldron. And I hated it. Like, really hated it, but just, I mean, it just had to be done. And I knew that everybody was working really hard and they would do it as well sometimes. But I thought, okay, I'm the boss here. I have to kind of show that I'm willing to kind of get my hands dirty here as well. So I would go down and, like, I would have, like, I remember as if it was yesterday, like, I would have, several times throughout the cleaning process, which would take about an hour and a half, I'd be thinking, oh, I won't bother taking those crates out. I'll just mop around or something. And I would always have to give a talk to myself while I was doing it and say, no, if you're going to do a shoddy job, then just don't bother doing it. And I would always make a point of doing it just so well, and it was a job I hated, but there were other things that I guess were driving me on. Like, I just thought, okay, this is so important for people to see that I'm putting an effort in. It's so important to see that, I'm willing to get my hands dirty. And it's just so important that we don't get rats or we don't get, you know, food poisoning or anything like that. So there were so many reasons for me to do the crappy things that, you know, that kept going.
To bring it back to entrepreneurship. So at the start of the discussion, you mentioned that you have a picture in your mind, maybe of what an entrepreneur looks like and of the path they pursued. And I'm not too sure if you mentioned their education, but in thinking about the education of an entrepreneur, is that something that can be taught, or is it something that you learn through experience? Because it sounds like you've done a lot of learning through your experience.
Mm. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, in my head, when I think about entrepreneurs, I think of people who have a very different journey to me. I think my journey has been very random. Like I say, when I think of really successful entrepreneurs, I think of them as having gone through, these top jobs that I never had the confidence to take, we'll say. I think of them as, maybe having a PhD of, you know, just being really articulate. I don't know. I don't kind of seem to connect with that kind of idea of entrepreneurship. Like, I feel kind of much less formal or something. I don't know. And, but it's funny that, when I guess, even just describing how I went from setting up a music school to running a pub to teaching to, whatever, it all like it was kind of all random when I was traveling in that direction. Like when I was moving from one thing to the other, it was like, oh my God, how does running a pub connect to teaching grammar to a 10-year-old? And I guess it didn't. But when I look back on my life now, I can just see like, I can see like the kind of honeycomb with the clear line going through each point on that honeycomb that has led me exactly to where I am. And it all makes sense. And I'm not just saying that, it really does. Like it's, I think back on just experience I had in, volunteering in Sudan or, editing in Israel or, just the most random things. And I think, it has contributed so much to how I'm thinking now and how I'm just managing the startup that we now have. And also the education, like, I mean, for sure, the master's in blended and online learning that I did in Napier, I mean, it changed my life. Like really, it just opened my eyes to the most amazing educational experience. And like it was fully online, but I used it to as kind of scaffolding for the project I was doing in Tanzania at the time. Like all the projects I did for the masters were real world, stages of the project to create this online learning platform in Tanzania. So, I think it's a combination of lots of random experiences, having to learn some stuff of necessity. Like, I mean, I learn stuff, every week. Like I'm learning Figma at the moment because I want to be more hands-on in developing the app. I mean, Canva, of course, like, I mean, who can live without Canva these days? Like, but that, I didn't know that, or Be Funky, all of these programs that just, it takes a while to learn them. But, I kind of think that you have to just keep adding tools to your tool belts. Like, you can't just not learn. You have to keep learning and reading as well. Like I just love reading. Like I've got, it's just sickening. Like my bedside table is just, it's almost weird. Like it's all these kind of learning technologies, books or culture, just psychology, all of this kind of stuff that all influences how I think. And, even, now that we're involved with Leo and Enterprise Ireland, and there's a lot of hoops to be jumped through and a lot of very detailed kind of reporting claims forms. And, just yesterday I was filling in the claims form for support that I got to attend the Learning Technologies seminar in London last week. And, I had a few tickets for tiny items, like, 14 euro for I don't know what, a lunch or something. And the old me, I think, would have thought, oh, I just couldn't be bothered, doing the paperwork to reclaim 50% of 14 euro. And yesterday I was doing it and I thought, no, I'm going to take the photo, I'm going to fill in the form, I'm going to get the invoice number. It takes 5 minutes. But it's kind of exercising discipline that I need to, to really keep everything on track and to make sure that my mind is always focused on detail. That yeah, I have the vision, but in order to get there, there's a lot of discipline required to get there. But it's the vision sustains all of that.
And who is Linda now? Like in terms of if you were to give yourself a professional identity, do you say entrepreneur, educator? Is there something else?
Well, I don't know.
That's
I
okay.
mean, when I fill in, details of profession, I usually just put down I can't even remember. I think I change it every time. Online education consultant or something. I don't really know. I mean, I will, once we get to market, I will like I'll change my title, I guess. Like at the moment, like we say that I'm CEO. So this is the other thing, and maybe it's kind of it's actually important to say this, that part of the journey as well. Like I mean, you know a lot of the examples I've given have been very, they've sort of been solitary kind of things, like setting up the music school or running a club. Like it's just been me kind of going in doing all of these stuff. And I guess now, Paul, my husband, is his partner on this new venture. And when we talk about the magic, the importance of the magic of an idea, I think having him as a partner is really great for that, because we talk about plenty of things, but we talk a lot about this business and where it can go and how we can do things differently and who we should talk to, and what events should we go to, and you know like it just makes it makes it really exciting. Like to like I think this I don't know, would I do this if it wasn't for him? I don't know, maybe I would, but I think it's definitely more enjoyable. And yeah, it's more enjoyable, and it's more, it's great to, like, we kind of have similar skills, but very different skills as well. So even sometimes, we'd have a joint meeting and I might think, oh, I'm kind of low energy today, and he can carry it, you know? And like, that's brilliant to kind of have somebody who's completely 50-50 in on this, that, you can kind of say, okay, it's not all on me, you know?
Very good. You use the words magic and impact there. So in all of your ventures, so the music school, teaching English in Spain, the two pubs, the CPD e-learning project that you set up in Africa, was there a consistent theme that sort of drove you in terms of motivation through all those different activities?
Mm.
And of course, in this project now as well. So you're in the process of building a product and setting up your own business. What's your primary motivator?
I'm not really sure. I mean, can I just try and eliminate some of the usuals, and then we
Wonderful.
might find the truth? So, I mean, the obvious one, money, is that a motivator, or has it ever been a motivator? No. I mean, like, really, I can very honestly say that that has never been a motivator for me. Like most of my career, I've been in low paid or no paid jobs. I've earned a few. Like when I was working with UAM, I did earn some money, and I mean, I always got paid, like for the in the pubs and teaching English. But no, I mean, low pay, I would say, mainly status. So I did say that when I went to work, to when I pivoted from the teaching 10-year-olds to teaching businesses, I think I was kind of looking for a little bit more status, and to be kind of, I think I was looking for acknowledgement that, I was smart. If I'm really honest, like that's important to me, I guess. Like I am, like I just like, the ideas. I like discussing things. So maybe, like, I would never be the life and soul of a party kind of person. Like I'm not so funny, or I mean, I can be funny, but I'm not really, you wouldn't remember me as, oh my God, she's gas. You wouldn't think of me like that. So that's not really the identity I'm trying to carve out for myself. I think I'm happy to be seen as somebody who's kind of kind of smart, somebody who thinks a lot, somebody who can be good in a crisis, who can fix problems. That's the person I am, or that's the person I see, or I want to be seen as, I guess. So, so yeah, I guess it's all kind of wrapped up in identity in some ways. But then like things like, but then it does go to the impact as well, and the magic of the impact. It's not just about fixing a problem; it's fixing a problem in a way that that just really makes things special. Like, I mean, I'll give you an example, and this is something that's so crazy. You might need to edit this out. But we're creating an advisory board for the new venture at the moment, and at the weekend we met with one woman who I consider incredibly smart. She's really successful in her career, and I kind of like we met in the pub. So after a few drinks, I was telling her this, and I thought, this might be bad. And she said, no, hang on to that. That's really important. So the idea, what I was saying is, that we have like our idea is that in terms of structure, that we would mainly be a remote organization, and that we would, have meetups and bring kind of employees and customers together, eventually once a quarter, whatever, to Sligo, because we really want to be this Northwestern organization. And I said, I can imagine having, Kieran Quinn and, tons of the kids on the platform of the train station, and people arriving and just having this kind of hairs standing up on their arms moment when they're arriving in for a slick event. And, that, and carrying that through the whole kind of workshop, informal interaction, inspiring speeches type of thing, that would be our organization. So, I mean, of course, looking after the detail of getting things done and getting things really well, but I want more. I just want magic. Is that too much to ask?
That's wonderful. It sounds like uh, you place a lot of value on values and doing things right. Are there two or three values that you hold dearly in what you do?
Mhm. Well, I mean, integrity for sure is one. Like, I'm really uncomfortable kind of exaggerating or kind of saying things that I kind of think I'm just saying them because somebody wants to hear them, but I can't really deliver. So I think, yeah, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be comfortable selling something or doing something that I really believe hasn't a hope of working. I would actually just get out of that kind of situation really quickly. So that's one. Another value.
It's a big one. It's okay if you want us to leave it at one.
I guess the going the extra mile. That's there. Like, even, and I suppose it's kind of what I do always. Like, at the moment, I'm working on this equestrian platform. It's an online education platform for horse owners and professionals working in the equine industry. So, like, at the moment, I'm editing this. Just before coming on here, I was editing this recording I did last week with the Belgian vet, an amazing guy, 78. And basically, he's presenting his life's work that we're converting into multi-part webinar recording lessons for our membership. So, there are some parts, like, I kind of had allocated a certain amount of time to doing this. And then I was doing kind of, highlighting different sections of his talk and doing fade ins, fade outs. And I started doing it first, but I thought, okay, I'll just do one big highlight covering this kind of 4-minute section. And then when he got on to, we'll say, section 2, I thought, this is just wrong. I'm not respecting his his generosity, sharing this with him. I just need to go that extra mile. I need to put in an extra bit of time and make it good so that he will be, he'll feel happy that he has been so generous and that we have respected that and made that extra effort to let his work shine. So yeah, kind of just workaholic. Just put in the extra effort. Like try and make everything special. Not take shortcuts.
I think it brings us back to that word again, impact.
Well,
Impact and delivering value for people.
yeah.
Linda, we've just about hit an hour, so I want to
Oh,
respect your time. Is there, if you had the attention of the world for 5 minutes, is there something that you'd like to tell them? Could be a book to read, a song to listen to, a piece of advice.
book to read. I would. Okay, I think I'll just pick Daniel Coyle's The Culture Code. So I came across this when I was doing a job with Equitopia, the horse people. So we had a course, and one of our instructors did a 10-part series on different aspects of equestrianism, and one of them was on learning. So acquiring skills and, how to learn. And she was talking about, she was talking about Daniel Coyle and his explanation of how we learn, the neuroplasticity and how neural pathways are coded with myelin, and, you kind of get down myelin road if you want to do great things, because it's all about practice and, interrupting things when you do it wrong and starting again and just hardwiring the right way of doing things. So I bought that book and loved it. And then I looked further into him and saw that he had another book, The Culture Code. And that again, that just blew my mind. And like, I have a copy of the book and I just have notes written all over it, and I take it up every so often and just reread parts. And it just all just resonated so much with me, that's, and it has really influenced. It's one of the books that has really influenced what we're doing with this startup. Because it is, it's all about, it's not about doing cool things. For me anyway, it's not about doing cool things. It's about just, acknowledging that we're just all people with all sorts of different emotions, different stuff going on in our lives. We're not, like, our solution is a workplace solution. It's a learning solution. So it's not that, obviously we're just trying to all fill our heads with facts and, be smart and operate in this 9 to 5 kind of employee mode. We're just people. And, again, learning is so important, how we develop and fulfill our potential, but to do it in a way that allows us to connect with people on so many different levels, and to, experience again the magic, of growth, and just do it in a way that nobody is kind of being mean or unkind to anybody. We're all just in this together, and, move forward, learn loads, and have huge impact, change the world. Simple stuff. Yeah.
Lovely. Linda, thank you very much for your time. Linda Hegarty, entrepreneur, educator, doer, mother, wife, friend, all those things. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for showing up intellectually and emotionally and sharing your guidance. If anybody wants to find out about you, would you send them anywhere?
Well, we just are developing our website, so there'll be contact details on that. It's www.slickplus, SLICK. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Linda, thanks very much.
Thanks, Sean.
You have been listening to the Leaders of Learning podcast. This podcast was produced as part of research that I've been doing in the field of entrepreneurship education. As part of my research, I am creating, co-creating, and curating tools for educators to help them to improve their understanding of what it means to be entrepreneurial in their practice, and also how to think about teaching entrepreneurship. Your host has been Sean Donnelly. If you like what you've heard, and if you'd like to learn more about my research, please visit padlet.com/Sean P. Donnelly /entrepreneurship education. That is padlet.com/Sean P. Donnelly /entrepreneurship education. Allow me to leave you with a quote. For the things we have to learn before we can do them, we learn by doing them. Aristotle.